Hey guys, welcome back to our new video on the rapid revisions, and today we're going to discuss the physiology. And if you are new here, then please consider the subscribe button and press the bell icons. And if you didn't watch the previous video before, so you can click on the I button here. You can click on the I button here and go through the link and go through all the videos of the rapid revisions, especially if you are the Croak aspirants, because these videos are very helpful for your exams, and also you can gain so much information that I wrote here. So let's start from the stomach. So stomach, as you all know, that is our parts of the stomach with cardiac part, body, fundus, and the pyloric. So we can see here in the diagram there is a fundus part, body part, and the pyloric part, and this is our greater curvature and this is our lesser curvature. Cardiac part is present below the where the esophagus is open, that is our cardiac part, and there is sphincter present here that we call it esophageal cardiac sphincter. Esophageal cardiac sphincter, through which esophagus opens into the stomach. Now the body of the stomach, if you talk about the body of the stomach, so it contains maximum more parietal cells. Then if you talk about the pyloric part, it contains a minimum parietal cell. Now the cells. These are the cells that present in our stomach, that are our goblet cells or the cervical mucus cell. So all these cells, they're produced by our gastric gland. Which gland? That is our gastric gland. Who produce this cell? That is our gastric gland. The goblet cell or the cervical neck cell, they secrete mucus. Okay. Oxantic cell or the parietal cell, they will secrete the HCl and intrinsic factor vitamin B12. But they will secrete HCl and intrinsic factor vitamin B12 or gastromucoprotein. Oxantic cell, or we also call it parietal cell, they also secrete what? HCl. So HCl, what they do, they provide the acidic pH. And what is the acidic pH? That is the gastric secretion 1.5 to 3.0. That is the pH of provided by the HCl. Intrinsic factor, that is our vitamin, help in the vitamin B12 absorption. Then there is one more question: who eat the vitamin B12? That is bacteria parasite, that is Diphyllobothrium latum. So which microorganisms that eat the vitamin B12? That is our Diphyllobothrium latum. Now the another cell, that is our the G cell. What the G cell do? They will secrete the which enzyme, which secretion, that is our gastrin, or we call it gastrin hormone. Then the delta and the D cell, what they do? They produce what? Somatostatin. They produce what? Somatostatin. And remember always that somatostatin, it is what? It is universal inhibitor. Somatostatin, remember, that is our what? It is our universal inhibitor. Here in the stomach, we can say that is the delta D cell produce the somatostatin. In the pancreas, that is our gamma cell. When we will study about the hormones, then I will tell you that there is a one gamma cell that produce what? Somatostatin, and that somatostatin, in that case, it will inhibit the insulin and the glucagon secretion. So that is, we called it somatostatin, that is our universal inhibitor. The next cell is that chief cell, or we can call it zymogen cell, or we also call it main exocrinocyte cell. So what they produce? They produce pepsin and renin. Remember the pepsin and renin. What they produce? The chief cell or zymogen, and the main exocrinocyte cell, they produce what? Pepsin and renin. And also remember that renin that use here, that is RENNIN. That is RENNIN. That is renin. Okay, and that is produced by the stomach. RENIN, that is renin, that produced by juxtaglomerular. That is produced by juxtaglomerular cells. Juxtaglomerular cells. Okay. Then the next one, the receptor present in the gastric gland. So what are the receptor? They are the which receptor? That is histamine 2 receptor. That is our histamine 2 receptors that present in our gastric gland or in our stomach. So what they do? They maintain what? Acidity. You know that is when we use what? Histamine blockers. Histamine 2 blockers. The drugs ending with idine like famotidine, ranitidine, or we can call it Genentech, that we use for H2 blockers. Then there is a one layer that protect from the acid that we called it cell of pre-mastoid epithelium, and this cell or this layer is present about our gastric gland. Okay, okay, great. Then the next one is what? Next one is our hypothalamus. Next one is what? Our hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, there are loads of the nuclei present in hypothalamus. This question we again discuss when we will study about the endocrine. So hypothalamus, what nuclei present? What nuclei present? Then there is a two nuclei here, that is supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. There is supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei. Remember always that supraoptic nuclei, they produce what? They produce what? Vasopressin. Or another name, that is antidiuretic hormone. What we called it? Antidiuretic hormone or the vasopressin. What they will do? They will water reabsorption. What they will do? They will reabsorb the water. Where? In the collecting duct. In collecting duct. So vasopressin is a hormone that help in the water reabsorption and in the collecting duct. And they act through what? They act through the aquaporin 2 receptor. They act through the aquaporin 2 receptor. Okay, that is our vasopressin. Now the another nuclei present in the hypothalamus, that is paraventricular nuclei. What the paraventricular nuclei do? They produce what? Hormone that we called it oxytocin. That we called it oxytocin. Now oxytocin, remember, when you think about the oxytocin, think about the contraction. So if we talk about the uterus, then the uterus, they will contract the middle layer of the uterus, that is our myometrium. That is myometrium contraction, and we know that in the pregnancy myometrium will contract, so there will be myometrium contraction. If we talk about the breast, in the breast there is a myoepithelial cells will be there. Myoepithelial cell will be there. So myoepithelial cell, they will contract with the help of oxytocin. That why we called the oxytocin is milk ejecting hormone. That's why we called it milk ejecting hormone. So which hormone is known as milk ejecting? There is ejection of when the secretion is ejecting and not producing. That is milk ejecting. Who is milk secreting hormone? That is prolactin. But if we talk about the milk ejecting hormone, that we call it oxytocin. Then next thing, if vasopressin will be absent, what we call the disease, that will be diabetes insipidus. Because if vasopressin will be absent, there is a no reabsorption of water, and no reabsorption of water means there will be the polyuria. There will be polyuria. Those who watch Tarak Mehta ka Ulta Chashma, so there is a like Bapuji, so उनको भी क्या है? That is our diabetes insipidus. So polyuria and polydipsia. Because if more urine, more water will be released in the urine, the person will become more thirsty, and that will lead to the polydipsia. Okay, so polyuria and polydipsia, they are the main characteristics feature of what? Diabetes insipidus. Then the next one, our intestines. So let's talk about the intestine. So intestine, of course, we have the small intestine and the large intestine. So small intestine, they have the clustered cell present that we called it Paneth cell. So there is a one question in the croak, the Paneth cell present in where? It present in what? Small intestine. In the small intestine, villi also present? Yes, sir. Then the large intestine, they help in the absorption, we know. Then small intestine, there is the three parts. What are the three parts of the small intestine? duodenum, ileum, jejunum, or duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Okay, okay. Then remember that iron absorption that occurs in where? It occurs in the duodenum. And where the iron absorption occurs, it occurs in the duodenum. That is the proximal duodenum. Duodenum also secretes the two hormones, that is cholecystokinin and the secretin. Which hormone? Cholecystokinin and the secretin. Cholecystokinin, remember, that involved in the digestion and absorption. But if we talk about the secretin, they maintains the pH or the motility. So cholecystokinin, motility, digestion and absorption, and secretin, they help in the maintaining the pH of the intestine. Okay, okay. Then there is a jejunum. So vitamin B9 absorption, no, iron absorption occur in the duodenum. Then remember the jejunum, folic acid or vitamin B9 absorption. So folic acid and vitamin B9 absorption, it occurs in the jejunum. Can I write it like 9 and can I write it like J? This is like J. This is my J. Okay. If I remove this one, this is my J. So this we call it J, means jejunum. Don't make it I. Okay, so that is our J. Or remember the vitamin B9 absorption, it occurs in where? Jejunum. Folic acid, that is vitamin B9, it occurs where? Jejunum. Ileum, there is pairs patches present. That important point, that is pairs patches present where it present in the ileum part. And within the ileum, which node will be present means that is the lymph node present where in the ileum, and there is a two absorption occur in the ileum, vitamin B12 and bile acid absorption. Vitamin B12 and bile acid absorption. Duodenum, iron absorption. Jejunum, folic acid, vitamin B9 absorption. Ileum, vitamin B12 and bile acid absorption. So simple. Okay, no worries. Then one point we miss here. What the function of hypothalamus? Hypothalamus, supraoptic nuclei, they also contain what? Osmoreceptors. They also contain what? Osmoreceptor. And also the hypothalamus, that is the master gland, that is involved in the cardiac circadian rhythm, suprachiasmatic nucleus, food regulations, then body temperature regulation, sleep and wake regulation. That the loads, hypothalamus is our master gland, that is the loads of function. Okay, okay. Then let's talk about the hypocalcemia. So when we'll study about the hypocalcemia, if you see the parathyroid, again we'll discuss in like endocrine gland system. But here remember, if you see in the question there is a hypocalcemia. So what should come in your mind? Hypoparathyroidism. What should come in your mind? Hypoparathyroidism. Okay, and also remember, if you are seeing their hypoparathyroidism, it means we can see antagonistic hormone of parathyroid, so we can do hyperthyroidism. We can see hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism means thyrocalcitonin will be more. Okay, so here I wrote here. So alternatively, hypercalcemia, hyperparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism means hypothyrocalcitonin. Okay, and vice versa. Again, the same opposite, make it opposite of phosphate also. If hypophosphatemia, there will be hyperparathyroidism. Hypophosphatemia, hypothyrocalcitonin. Okay, okay. Then there is conducting system of the heart, that is SA node. Okay, let's talk one more question here about hypocalcemia. What the parathyroid will do? They will increase the phosphate reabsorption in the kidney, or what they will decrease the phosphate reabsorption in the kidney? What? That is, yes, they will decrease what? Phosphate reabsorption in the kidney. What does it mean? And what they will do, they increase what? Phosphate, increase what? Calcium reabsorption in kidney. What does it mean? calcium, if they are increasing the calcium reabsorption, it means they are increasing calcium in what? In blood. And who does this function? That is our parathyroid gland. But this is parathyroid hormone. That is parathyroid hormone. What they do? They increase the calcium in the blood. So they will increase the calcium reabsorption in kidneys. So they will decrease the phosphate reabsorption in the kidney. So that is what hypoparathyroidism. Okay, and hypocalcemia and hypercalcemia, whatever. Then the next is things is conducting system of the heart. So heart, remember, they have दिल का, यहाँ पे क्या है, दिल की बात है. So that is दिल की बात. So conducting system of the heart, it's mainly provide the automaticity. Like in our there is some automatized tissue present in our heart. They will produce their own heartbeat. So if we talk about the SA node, so there will be more than 60 BPM will be there. Like means beats per minute, BPM beats per minute. If we go for AV node, then bundle of his Purkinje fibers. So all these, remember, all the heart rate produced by by this automatized tissue. Purkinje fiber, remember, they have what? They have the eccentric nucleus, and they have what? They have the glycogen granules. So eccentric nucleus present in Purkinje fiber, glycogen granules present in Purkinje fiber, central artery present in spleen, central vein liver. Because यहाँ से क्या है, लव का मामला है. So L for liver, V for vein. Then next is erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Erythrocyte sedimentation rate, we also called it what? That is our hematocrit rate. So normal erythrocyte sedimentation rate is 10 to 20 mm per hour. When the pregnant, there will be elevation of fibrinogen. There is a elevation of fibrinogen, that is the blood clotting protein. So there is an elevation of the fibrinogen in pregnant ladies. That's why their erythrocyte sedimentation rate will be more, and that is what 40 to 60 mm per hour. Okay. The next is cells in the central nervous system. So what are the cells present in the central nervous system? We have the neurons, and we also have what? Glial cells. Glial cells are what? These are what? Sporting cells. So they will sport. Then, so just remember that we have the oligodendrocyte, and also we have satellite cells. So all the astrocyte cells, star shape like cells, so they all are the glial cells. And so let's talk first about what that is our neurons. So most important for the neuron here, that is our types of the neuron that is asked. So types of the neuron, there is unipolar neuron, pseudo-unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron, and multipolar neuron. So remember the important point here, that is the example. So unipolar, they're not present in our vas, that present in what? Invertebrates. Pseudo-unipolar, they present in dorsal root ganglia. Bipolar, they present in the retina, nose, olfactory nerve. Bipolar present in the retina, nose, or in nose like olfactory nerve. They contain what? Bipolar neurons. Multipolar neurons present in the like spinal motor. So remember the most important question that asked from here, that is what? Dorsal root ganglion. So don't forget that dorsal root ganglion, which neuron will be present, that is pseudo-unipolar, means there is a single axon that divides into the, like if this is my body, so there is one single axon that go for the dendrite also. So it looks like bipolar, but actually it is what? It is unipolar. So that is called it pseudo-unipolar, jhutha unipolar. Okay, pseudo means false. So here you can see this is the structure of what? Neurons. So neurons, what we have the dendrites, then we have the cell body we also called it soma. In the soma cell body we have what? Nissls body or Nissls granule when you comes in your mind. So remember the synthesis of what? Proteins, because they are like ribosomals. Nissal's body. So again, ribosome protein synthesis. Then we have axon. Axon, between the axon we have what nodes of Renifer. Then we have the myelin sheath and axon terminal. In the axon terminal, what we have synaptic vesicles present. What we have synaptic vesicles present. The nodes of Renifer, we called it area of axon devoid of myelin. Maximum number of the sodium channel present in the node of Renifer. And the axons that is responsible for conduction. If you have the fast conduction, it means myelin sheath present. If myelin sheath present, there will be the fast conduction. If myelin sheath is absent, we called it slow conduction will be there. Okay. The glial cells that we called astrocyte. So astrocyte, remember the star-shaped cells across the blood-brain barrier. Oligodendrocyte and the Schwann cell, they produce the myelin. They produce the myelin. And oligodendrocyte, remember oosin. Okay, oosins. Oosins, remember that oligodendrocyte, they produce the myelin sheath in central nervous system. But if we talk about the Schwann cell, they produce the myelin sheath in peripheral nervous system. Okay, central nervous system oligodendrocyte, peripheral nervous system Schwann cell. समझ में आया क्या? Okay. Then the next one is synaptic transmission. Synaptic transmission. एक न्यूरॉन यहाँ पे है, एक न्यूरॉन इसके आगे आएगा, दोनों के बीच में क्या होगा? क्या होगा? So they will mix up. So maybe there will be the gap between them, and maybe there will be the no gap between them. So between them, if we have the gap between them, we call them synapse. What we call them? Synapse. And if the synapse, so neurotransmitter will release into the synapse. So it means the neurotransmitter absent in the synapse, and that we called it electrical synapse. Chemical synapse, the gap present. There will be the gap present in the chemical synapse. Synapse is what? Synapse is equals to what? Gap present between the two neurons. So if the gap is present between the two neurons, then we called it chemical synapse. If gap is not present between them, then we called it electrical synapse. Because electrical synapse means like from one neuron directly jump to the next post neurons or post synaptic neuron. Okay. Then the neurotransmitter, we know that is excitatory neurotransmitter, that is glutamate, inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA and glycine. This is so simple. Then we will study about the pathway. So there is a two pathway that we studied for the neurons, that is afferent pathway or ascending pathway. So afferent, remember, afferent is equals to what? Afferent is equals to what? Motor fibers. No, sorry. Afferent is equals to what? Sensory fibers. And if we talk about the efferent fibers, that is equals to efferent fibers, that is equals to what? Motor fibers. Means afferent, they carry the sensation from target organ to the brain, and efferent, they takes the information from the brain and give again to the our target organ. That is efferent, means motor. Okay, the next is what? Let's talk about what? Sense. So normally in our body we have the two sense, general sense and the special sense. General sense, remember the touch, pain, temperature. TPP, TTP. That is touch, pain, temperature. Special sense will be vision, hearing, smell, taste and balance. Vision, hearing, smell, taste, balance. That is what the special sense. Then the vision, if we talk about the vision, vision means there is a receptors present in our photoreceptors. So remember that the question asked from here, that is the photoreceptor cells present in eyes and present in which layer? That is retina. That is retina. And what the photoreceptor cells, we know that is our rods and the cones. Then the vision, the receptor, they will take the what? Light, and the light will fall on the photoreceptor. They will transmit to the thalamus and they will transmit to the visual cortex. Visual cortex responsible for vision is occipital. In the thalamus, there is a nucleus. We call it lateral geniculate body. That is enough for you. And further, you can study everything in ophthalmology. Then the cells in the retina, this is important. The cells in the retina, there is a rods and the cones. Rods are much more than the cones. Rods are much more than the cones. Then rods, they are responsible for dim light and night vision. Rin ki sabun suna hoga. So there is a sabun, there is soap, we called it Rin sabun, Rin soap. So remember that roads and there is a night vision. So roads, remember, that is responsible for the night vision. Or night vision means there is a dim light. Then the cones, we know that CC, that is CC, that is colorful visions or daylight visions. So rods, remember, they contain the pigment that is rhodopsin pigment. That is which pigment? Rhodopsin. So rhodopsin, remember, it is what? It is vitamin A derivative. It is what? Vitamin A derivative. So takes the vitamin A to improve your vision. Okay. So vitamin A लो आंखों की दूर करो, ठीक है. So vitamin A derivative. Then the next is cerebellum. Next is what? Cerebellum. Cerebellum, when you think about the cerebellum, they help in the coordination, balancing movement, all these things. Control and coordination means cerebellum. So they will start and stop signaling. The cerebellum mainly contains 5 cells, 4 nuclei, 3 parts. So remember only the cells that present in the cerebellum. These are the stellate, basket, granule, Purkinje and the Golgi cells. Then remember the layers that is important for you. That is what? External molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer or inner granular layer. Which one? Molecular, Purkinje and granular. External molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer and inner granular layer. These are the 3 cell layers present in what? Cerebellum. Also, if you want to remember that, remember the stellate and the basket present in the molecular, Purkinje they present in the Purkinje cell layer, and granules and Golgi cells they present in inner granular layer. If you want to remember, then remember, otherwise you can skip this one. Okay, just remember all these cell layers. Then the breathing. So this question already asked lots of times. So remember the 3 things here. If intrapleural pressure is studied at rest, that is minus 2.5 mmHg. Okay, then if intrapleural pressure decrease means during the inspiration. So during the inspiration, intrapleural pressure will decrease. So it will minus 2.5 to minus 6 mmHg. Intrapleural pressure increase during the expiration, minus 6.5 to minus. Again, it will come to the rest during the expiration. And it will go more minus, like minus 2.5 to minus 6. And during expiration, it comes again to what? Rest. Whenever intrapleural pressure can be positive. So positive means there is intrapleural pressure is positive only during the forceful expiration. So only during the forceful expiration there will be IPP will be positive. Okay. Then the next is what? Lungs volume and capacities. Lungs volume is the tidal volume. So normal that you are taking the respiration, maybe you are not sympathetic now. So lungs volume that you are normally that you are inspiring, expiring, that is what? Tidal volume. That is the normal respiration. That is 500 ml. Did you believe it? Yeah. That is inspiratory reserve volume. The next is inspiratory reserve volume. Take the deep inspiration. So that is what? Inspiratory reserve volumes. That is maximum possible inspirations 2 to 3 liters. Now maximum expiration. Do the maximum expiration. That is what? 1.3 liter. Now you took the inspiratory reserve volume. You are saying that is 2 to 3 liter. Now expiratory reserve volume. You are saying to forcefully expire. So we expired everything forcefully. Now it's still 1.3. The remaining is where? The remaining is what? That is residual volume, the air remaining in the lungs as a residue. So that is what residual volume. Okay, so these are the volumes. So tidal volume that we are taking normally, inspiratory reserve volume, forceful inspiration, expiratory reserve, forceful expiration. But when it is the forceful expiration, all the airs will not come out. They will remain as a residue in the lungs. We call that is residual volume. Okay. Then there is a capacity. Capacity, when we combine the two or more than two volumes, then we make it capacity. So inspiratory capacity, how total capacity by total capacity by which we can inspire the air, that is what inspiratory capacity. So that is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume, or we can say it tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So that is the total value. Is here is what? I. So tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So you can see here the 2 to 3 liters, 2 plus 500. So this is 2.5 to 3.5 liter. Functional residual capacity. Functional residual capacity. So that is what? Expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume, that residue in our lungs. That is what functional residual capacity. The next is what? Vital capacity. Vital capacity, remember, fill the balloon. Take a balloon and fill the balloon. That is what? Vital capacity. So how you will do that? First what you will do? Forceful expire, and then that forceful expire, that is your forceful inspiration, and that your normal inspiration, fill that air in the balloon. So that is what vital capacity. So it includes the tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, and the expiratory reserve volume. That is what vital capacity. The next is what? Total lung capacity. Total lung capacity, tidal volume, include everything now. That is what? Total lung capacity. So that is what? How much amount? 5 to 6 liter. Speak loudly. 5 to 6. So how we will measure that? How we will measure the respiratory volume? So the respiratory volume, remember, that is measured by what? Measured by spirometer. We called it spirometry. But there is a problem with the spirometry. The spirometry cannot measure the residual volume and functional residual capacity and total lung capacity, because total lung capacity also include what? Residual volume. So that do not measure these volume, because they are residue. They includes the residue present in our lungs. And our spirometry, they can only take the, like, from the outside only. The air that is coming outside and their air that is taking inside, that is only measured by the spirometry. That cannot measure the air that present already in our lungs, or the present only as residue. So we cannot measure that. So sad. Okay, so that is our chemical regulation of what? Respiration. The next is chemical regulation. So brain and the neck. Okay, in the brain we have what? Central chemoreceptor. Remember? So remember, who is respiratory center? That is medulla. Present in what? Brain. Brain have what? Central chemoreceptor. Then if we talk about the neck, remember that the peripheral chemoreceptor is located in the carotid body and the aortic body. For you, that is important. This one is not important. So remember only the brain, that is central chemoreceptor, that located in the medulla, and also the pons. Medulla and the pons and medulla both, they are the what? Respiratory regulatory center. Next is hypoxia. Next is hypoxia. So this question we already discussed in Instagram post. So that is hypoxia, that is fall in partial pressure of oxygen levels. So there is hypoxic hypoxia, anemic hypoxia, stagnant, and histotoxic. So fall in partial pressure of oxygen level at high altitude, hypoxic hypoxia. Anemic patient, carbon monoxide poisoning, anemic hypoxia. Decrease RBC, there is a decreased hemoglobin, decreased oxygen content of the blood. Stagnant hypoxia, stagnation of the blood in the tissue, more oxygen consumption by the tissue. Histotoxic hypoxia, remember the example cyanide poisoning. They inhibit what? Cytochrome oxidase. That is the enzyme for the electron transport chain. Then defect in the oxygen utilization. That is what? Histotoxic hypoxia. Remember the example what? Cyanide poisoning. Okay. Next is what? Our membrane potential. So here in this membrane potential, first thing is what? Resting membrane potential. So resting membrane potential, remember that is what? Potassium ion. So when you come things about the resting membrane potential, the only ions that is responsible for the resting membrane potential, that is what? Potassium ion. So normally what happens in our cell, there is a more potassium present inside body and sodium present extracellularly will be more. So this potassium ion will move out, so that will lead to the negative charge inside the cell vessels and positive charge becomes outside. So that will lead to the resting membrane potential. Then if we talk about some examples, the neuron resting membrane potential, remember that is minus 70 millivolt. Skeletal muscles and cardiac muscles, they are minus 90 millivolt. So you can check the diagram here, that is membrane potential versus time. So if we take the stimulus, so it is a minus 70 millivolt, that is for neuron resting membrane potential. So when the stimulus will arrive, there will be little sodium, very low amount of the sodium influx will in from the outside. Okay, so minus 70 to minus 55 mole, that is sodium influx. We call this phase is phase 1. Next, there will be more sodium. So again, there will be the rapid influx or rapid sodium influx will be there. We call the phase that is our depolarization phase. So depolarization like minus 55 to plus 30 till plus 30 millivolt. So in the phase 2, there is sodium channel will becomes inwards and the potassium channel will become outward. So sodium channel when they will come in, so they will make what? Positive charge inside and negative charge outside. Then what happens? There is a phase 3, there is a repolarization phase. Then again there is a potassium ion will go out. Then again the negative charge and positive charge. So there is a electric stimulation or potential will be stabilized on the cell membrane. So repolarization due to potassium efflux. The phase 4, there is a hyperpolarization will be there. Now what happened in the phase 4, there is a potassium efflux and the chloride influx. Because in the hyperpolarization, there is a GABA neurotransmitter will be there. The mechanism of action is totally different what we are studying. So that is if hyperpolarization will be there, that is due to inhibitory neurotransmitter. Due to that, potassium will not able to close. So that's why the potassium efflux will be occurring and the chloride will influx, that will decrease the potential from minus 70 to minus till minus 90 millivolt, and that we call it hyperpolarization. So which is the ion responsible for hyperpolarization, that is potassium efflux and chloride influx. Okay, so this is what about membrane potential. Also remember in the cardiac muscles, when we study about the arrhythmia, we will study. So in the cardiac muscle, there is a one more phase is there that we call it plateau phase or refractiveness. Next is there is somatosensory pathway. So somatosensory pathway, remember the skin present in our receptor. Then there is a first order neuron, then go to the spinal cord. The signal from the skin receptor they will go to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord through the second order neuron they will go to the thalamus, and from the thalamus there is sensory cortex, and from the thalamus they will go to the what? Sensory cortex. If we talk about the spinal cord, so spinal cord, they have the two type pathway, dorsal column pathway, or we call it posterior, like two pathway will be arise, we call it second order neurons, that is dorsal column pathway or anterolateral pathway. So dorsal column pathway, they are the ipsilateral, means on the same side, and anterolateral pathway, they are the contralateral, means they cross through the spinal cord. Ipsilateral, if you talk, that is involved in the proprioception. Fine touch, responsible for fine touch, responsible for vibration. Contralateral, the responsible for pain, temperature, and responsible for what? Crude touch. So anterolateral pathway responsible for pain, temperature, and the crude touch. And if you talk about the dorsal column pathway, the responsible for fine touch, vibration, and the proprioception. Again, the dorsal column pathway, that question is asked that they are divided into the two types, that is tractus cuneatus, tractus gracilis. So remember that cute girl. So cute girl means CU, or you can remember the CU girl, that is C for cuneatus. So it controls the series or carries the sensation of the upper limb. And if we talk about the gracilis they control or carries the sensation of what? Lower limb. Okay. Then one disorder associated or syndrome associated with this spinal cord pathway, that is Brown-Sequard syndrome. So Brown-Sequard syndrome, there is a hemisection of the spinal cord, means half of the spinal cord will be affected. So ipsilateral, if we talk about the left side, okay, so there is a left spinal cord is affected. There is a left spinal cord affected. So left spinal cord means ipsilaterally, means left side there will be dorsal column, left dorsal column pathway affected. And there will be the left anterolateral pathway affected. Okay. So on the left side, there will be the loss of proprioception, and there is a loss of vibration. Means dorsal column pathway sensation will be lost on the ipsilateral side. When if you talk about the contralateral side, there is a loss of pain and the temperature, loss of pain and temperature. So there will be right side loss of pain and temperature. Means if the left spinal cord is affected, it means there is a loss of proprioception and vibration on the left side, and the right side there will be the pain and temperature sensation will be lost. So that is what Brown-Sequard syndrome. That is what Brown-Sequard syndrome. Okay. Then the next topic is about cortex. So that is a most important topic, that is about cortex, and one of my favorite topic. So cortex, that is cerebral cortex divided into the four parts: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Between them there is a what? Central sulcus. This is what? Central sulcus. Before the central sulcus there is primary motor cortex, and post to the central sulcus, that is somatosensory cortex. So they all are the functions of the frontal lobe, primary motor cortex. So you can just take the screenshot and you can just study these all these things. I think no need for that. Important, I'm discussing here. So this is our brain made by me. Wow, that's so great. So that is what frontal lobe. So frontal lobe, remember. So we are saying that this is my central gyrus. This is my what? Central gyrus. Oh, no, sorry, central sulcus. Then below the central sulcus, this is primary motor, secondary somatosensory cortex. So there is a, before the central gyrus, we have what? Precentral gyrus. So precentral gyrus, they present in our frontal cortex. So remember that frontal cortex, there is what? Motor function, responsible for motor function. So precentral gyrus. Then if we talk about the postcentral gyrus present in the parietal cortex, responsible for what? Sensory function. Responsible for what? Sensory function. Okay. Then also remember that superior frontal gyrus, there is in the frontal lobe, there is a three gyrus present: the frontal gyrus, superior, middle frontal gyrus, and inferior frontal gyrus. So inferior frontal gyrus, there is contained in our cerebral cortex the loads of Brodmann areas present. Okay. So inferior frontal gyrus, there is Brodmann area 44-45%. That is, we called it Broca's area. So that is responsible for what? Motor speech. That is responsible for motor speech. Then in the postcentral gyrus, there is parietal cortex, sensory function. Then who is responsible for the sensory speech? Which Brodmann's area responsible for the sensory speech? So remember the temporal lobes. In the temporal lobe, again there is a three gyrus: superior temporal, middle temporal, and inferior temporal gyrus. So here is what superior temporal gyrus, they contain what? Vernix area. What vernix area? 21, 22, that responsible for what? Sensory speech. Responsible for sensory speech. Normally, the temporal lobe responsible for hearing, which Brodmann's area responsible for hearing, that is 41, 42. Occipital lobe, there is a vision. Occipital lobe responsible for vision, and which Brodmann's area, that is 17, 18 and 19. 17 is primary visual cortex, 18 is secondary visual cortex, and 19 is 19 is tertiary visual cortex. So these all are present in what? Occipital lobe. So occipital lobe responsible for vision, temporal lobe responsible for hearing, frontal lobe responsible for motor function, parietal lobe responsible for the sensory function. There are lots of things, lots of mix up everything. So how to remember this? Remember that what's my name? I hope everyone knows my name. If you don't know, then you can just check my YouTube channel. So that is Medic. No, that is not my name. So my name is Mukul. So that is Mukul. So that is bro, and that is fuck. So remember that Mukul, bro, fuck. What is that? M for motor speech. M for what? Motor speech. B for Broca's area. F for there is what? In frontal gyrus. Which frontal gyrus? That is inferior frontal gyrus. That is inferior frontal gyrus. So Mukul, bro, fuck. So Mukul, there is motor speech. B Broca's area. Fuck means F frontal gyrus, that is inferior frontal gyrus. Okay. Also remember that Mr. SS, that is Mr. SS. So when you confuse that which is motor response, which gyrus is responsible for motor function and which gyrus is responsible for the sensory function. So remember that M4 there is a motor function, and R4 remember that is precentral gyrus, PR, and SS remember that there is a post and responsible for what? Sensory functions. समझ में आया क्या? बोलो ना. Okay, got it. So remember the Mukul Brofak, that is our motor speech, and Mr. SS, that is pre-central gyrus and the post-central gyrus. Also remember that SWS. SWS. So S for sensory speech, vernix area, and superior temporal gyrus. Okay. And remember also the Brodmann's area 17, 18, 19, sensory speech 21, 22, hearing 41, 42, Broca's area 44, 45. Then there is a two things here, that is motor speech and the sensory motor aphasia and the sensory speech. So if there is a problem in the inferior frontal gyrus lesions, that is motor aphasia. Sensory aphasia if problem in sensory superior temporal gyrus lesions. Correctio? Okay, that is sensory aphasia and motor aphasia. Then the next is descending motor pathways. Now we are going to little complicated things, but that is everything that I'm discussing is important here, because somehow they will ask you from like these topics and from the all the pathways they can ask. So everything that you're gonna study, it's little complicated, but that is much easier to like study. Then there is a descending motor pathway, that is we called it efferent pathway. Descending means going down, so that is efferent pathway. So descending motor pathway, that is what? Pyramidal pathway. Divide again into the pyramidal pathway and extra pyramidal tract. So there is a pyramidal tract. Remember that. What is the meaning of pyramidal? Derives from what? Cortex. Extra pyramidal derives from what? Brainstem. That is a reference. Pyramidal and extra pyramidal. Pyramidal tract, remember the corticospinal tract, it is what? Pyramidal tract. Descend from cortex to the spinal cord. Responsible for fine motor movement. Extrapyramidal tract, that is tactospinal, vestibulospinal, reticulospinal, rubrospinal tract. Vestibulospinal tract, it control what? Upper limb extension. It control what? Upper limb extension. Rubrospinal control upper limb flexor muscle. So remember that radio FM Mirchi 99.3 rupee. Radio FM 91.3. So remember radio FM. So radio means there is a rubrospinal tract. That is rubrospinal tract. F for flexor muscles. So rubrospinal tract responsible for what? Flexor muscle. Vestibulospinal, V are the V means V for vestibulo and E for extension. So we are watching what? Radio FM. We are hearing what? Radio FM. So V means vestibulospinal and extension. Rubro means, remember, that is what? Rubro and flexor. Don't tell anyone. Okay. Then reticulospinal tract and the tactospinal tract. Got it? So these are pyramidal and extrapyramidal things. Nothing more with it. Motor neurons, the present in brain. Okay, the motor neurons. That is, let's start from the motor neurons from the starting. Because if I will tell alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron, but then you will think what is alpha, where it come alpha, where it come beta. So let's start from the beginning also. So motor neurons that present in the brain. So from the cortex, in the cortex we have what? And in the brainstem. From the cortex, pyramidal tract arise, and the brainstem there is extrapyramidal tract. So the neurons that present in the cortex and the brainstem, they are, we called it upper motor neurons. Called upper motor neurons. So these neurons are present in the cortex and the brainstem, we call it upper motor neuron. Then they descend to the lower motor neuron. So lower motor neuron, they present in where? In spinal cord. So lower motor neuron present here, spinal cord. So lower motor neuron present in spinal cord, they innervate what? Skeletal muscles and regulate them. So lower motor neurons, we called it spinal cord, present in the spinal cord, they innervate the skeletal muscles, regulate them. Next is lower motor neuron and toe. They are the two types. So they can innervate by the two things. Like they can contract and they can regulate. So there is a alpha motor neuron and then second is gamma motor neuron. So lower motor neuron are the two types, alpha motor neuron and the gamma motor neuron. So now you understand what is alpha motor neuron and gamma. They are the types of what? Lower motor neuron. So lower motor neuron present in the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, it comes to the skeletal muscles and it comes, then they will regulate them. So it is what? It is lower motor neuron, alpha motor and the gamma motor. So alpha motor neuron that is responsible for muscle contraction. Alpha motor neuron is responsible for muscle contraction. Responsible for what? Muscle contraction. If we talk about the gamma motor neuron, it regulates what? It regulates the muscle tone. It regulates what? Muscle tone. Then the next is what? Lesions of upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron. So upper motor neuron, everything up. What is up? Upper motor neuron. Everything up. So increased reflex, increased muscle tones. If there is increased reflex, so there is, we call it exaggerated reflex. Increased muscle tone, we call it spastic paralysis, or also we can call it central paralysis will be there because upper motor neuron present in central regions or brain cortex and the brainstem. Lower motor neuron lesions, flaccid paralysis, or we can also call it peripheral paralysis. Why we call it peripheral paralysis? Because they present in periphery, lower motor neuron, spinal cord. So upper motor neuron reflex, decreased reflex. Lower motor neuron listen, there is a decrease in the reflex. So muscles will become hypoactive. Decreased muscle tone, hypotonic or peripheral paralysis or flaccid paralysis will be there. Then the Babinski sign that I discuss, that you can check on the post on my Instagram at the rate Mantic Mukul. So you can check the post on the Babinski sign. I already discussed it there. not going to waste the time here. So you can go there and watch and see all the other stuff also. So go and check there. So there is positive Babinski sign. It's shown by what? It's shown by upper motor neurons lesions, and they will show the lower motor neurons show negative Babinski sign. They don't show the Babinski sign. So this is all about our motor neuron descending pathway, ascending pathway, dum 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 dum. Then the next one is respiratory pathway. Next is what? Respiratory pathway. Okay. So respiratory pathway, there is if we talk about the respiratory, two things comes in our minds, lungs and the airways. Okay. Airways we have bronchi, bronchioles, conducting pathway, and all those pathway that is at the lungs. We know that is lungs are the right lungs, left lungs. Then comes to the point, according to our exams, that is alveolar airways. So alveolar airways, they contain what? The cells that we terms pneumocyte, or we can also call it alveocytes. There are the two types, type 1 pneumocytes and the type 2 pneumocytes. Type 1, they are the larger in the size, and type 2, they are the smaller in size but numerous in the number. When type 2 comes in your mind, or when the surfactant comes in your mind, go always type 2. So most of the surfactant produced by what? Type 2 pneumocyte. Type 1, they involved in what? Diffusion. They involved in diffusion. Then one respiratory disorders that give in your base, that is emphysema, that is obstructive respiratory disorder. And you know that obstructive respiratory disorder we have OX. OX. So that is O means obstructive, X means expiration. X means that is problem in the expiration. So they decrease what? Emphysema, there is what? The decrease in what? Lung elasticity, and also which lungs will be formed here, that the baggy lungs will be formed. Okay. Then there is a respiratory coefficient. Respiratory coefficient, remember that carbon dioxide involved divided by oxygen consumed is what? Respiratory coefficient. So just remember what the coefficient for the carbohydrate. One, fat is short, there's just 3 letters. Proteins, they have 7 letters. So 7 then means big, so that is 0.9. Fat is small, that is 3 letters only, so that is less, 0.7. The next is what? Our blood groupings. So we have the loads of the blood grouping, but here we are just going to discuss about the ABO blood grouping and RH blood grouping. So ABO blood grouping, when we talk, so there is a 3 antigens, or mainly the 2 antigens present in our surface antigens, A antigen and the B antigens. And these classified ABO blood grouping into the 4 subtypes of the blood group O, A, B, AP. And according to the past classifications, previous classification, we also divide the blood grouping in type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. So remember OAB, type 1 is O, A, B, A, B. Remember that O means 0. It looks like this. O means 0, so they mean no antigen present. So no antigen present means they are the universal what? Donor. They can donate to anyone. Then the genotype possible I0, one genotype is possible. So we can also write it like small I, small I. Then IAI response, there is a 2 genotype for the A, 2 genotype for the B, and AB, remember, they don't have antibody. The no antibodies present. So it means they are what? Universal acceptor. They can take the blood from anyone. A, B, O, किसी से भी ले सकते हैं, किसी को दे नहीं सकते. So that is what universal acceptor. So in the question, if you got something like if agglutination is not working, didn't occur for the B blood group, okay, then means the blood group go for the blood group B. If agglutination is not occurring for A and B, for A and B, it means blood group is AP. If agglutination is occurring with all, that is O blood group. And also remember that antigen we also called it agglutinogens, and antibody we called it agglutinins. Antibody we called it agglutinins. Then the last for today, that is our ear. So ear, we have ear anatomy. We know that external ear, middle ear, and the internal ear. So I'm just coming to your point and jump point. So external ear, it contains the pinna and external auditory meters, that is external acoustic meters, ear canal. Then middle ear, it contains what? Ear ossicles, that we call the three bones, malleus, incus, and the stapes. And the inner ear, remember, that is responsible for what? Hearing, and the vestibular system is responsible for balancing. So I'm just going to question, just discussing here only about the cochlea. Cochlea near the oval window, cochlea near the middle part of the cochlea, and the cochlea near the helicoderma. So cochlea near the helicoderma is responsible for what? Is responsible for low frequency. Cochlea near the helicoderma is responsible for low frequency, and cochlea near the oval window is responsible for what? Higher frequency. Okay, so remember that LH, that is LH. So LH, remember, that is luteinizing hormone. So remember L for low frequency and helicoderma. The cochlea near helicoderma is responsible for what? Lower frequency. So I hope everything is clear. So see you in the next video. Till then, thank you. Bye bye. Take care. And please consider the subscribe button. This video, these type of, like all the rapid revision video, they took the loads of efforts for writing, for editing, for everything. So please consider the subscribe button and to support us and to support our channel. And thank you so much. Keep learning, keep growing. Bye bye. Take care.